What's up? This is Brian. I sing and knocked loose. We're coming out to Australia again for the first time in a long time to play Knotfest Australia. We're very excited.
Beautiful, mate. Thanks for joining us this morning, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. So, as you say, Knocked Loose touched down in Australia in March for a run of shows as part of Knotfest 2023, which kicks off in Melbourne on March 24th before moving to Sydney on the 25th and Brisbane on the 26th. Like, I know this is a stupid question, mate, but how pumped are you?
I'm very, very pumped. I was just saying somebody that Australia is one of our favorite places to be, and it's been so long since we've been back. So we're very, very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. And this, of course, is the first time that Knotfest has ever been to Australia, mate. So being invited to play at the first one ever must be an even bigger honor.
Yeah, it is a huge honor. I mean, it's an honor to just be included. When we were fortunate enough to play it in Iowa a couple years ago, and that alone was an amazing opportunity. To be able to take it to Australia and for it to be their first time in Australia it's like pretty legendary, and we're very excited to play a small part in that.
One of the things like fans over here are getting really excited about, mate, is the Slipknot Museum. So did you visit that when you were on in Iowa?
I unfortunately didn't. That was a pretty hectic. We had 4 festivals in a row, so there's a lot of traveling in between sets. But that festival specifically for us was one of the biggest shows that we've ever played. So I was pretty just amazed by that aspect of it in general, and try to just enjoy the show as much as I could. I watched every act that played that day.
Yeah. And the lineup's incredible, mate. Like, you've got Slipknot, of course, but there's also Megadeth, Trivium, Amon Amarth, In Flames, Spirit Box, Malevolence, and more, mate. So as a music fan, I guess, who are you most looking forward to playing with, and why?
I got to go with Malevolence. Those have been our friends for a long time. It's always such a pleasure running into them. And I'm also just personally a huge fan of their music. So it'll be cool to see them in that kind of atmosphere.
And the Australian contingent is spearheaded by Parkway Drive, but there's also bands like North Lane, Alpha Wolf, and Void of Vision. So it's great to see such local representation there too, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. A big fan of North Lane. It'll be awesome to be able to see that.
So, as an international touring band, mate, when you come to something like this in Australia and you see all these Australian bands on the bill, do you do your homework on them before you come to sort of check them out to see what they're like, because you might not have actually heard of them before?
Yeah, definitely sometimes, especially if we're doing something like a headlining tour. I know the last time that we were in Australia, we did some headlining shows, and we went through and actually looked for bands to put on our shows, or bands from the local areas to help open those shows. And we also have some friends out there, so we'll ask them if they have any bands or they know any bands that would be good to throw on. So we try to keep our ears to the ground, just as fans of the music, we try to keep up with what's going on.
So for those over here that are unfamiliar with Knocked Loose, because you've only been here the once from memory, tell us what to expect from your live show. What's a typical Knocked Loose show, if there is one?
The one thing that I can promise is just intensity. That's just something we try to keep pretty surface level standard for every Knocked Loose show, is to just be as intense as we can. We like to create an aggressive environment. The energy and the adrenaline that comes with it is something that has always attracted us as individuals to this music. So we definitely bring that to our live show. So even if it's something that you're unfamiliar with, or something that you're not even necessarily interested in, it may be something that you enjoy watching.
It's actually an interesting point you bring up there, bro. You say you try and create an aggressive environment because your music is aggressive, but how do you actually do that on stage? Do you is a pre-show ritual you go through to psych yourself up or something, or do you headbutt each other backstage? How do you get in that aggressive mode?
I honestly feel everything's pretty calm before the set. I feel like everybody's just kind of got it holstered and ready to go. And when it comes to something like Knotfest, or really any show, I know that I'm usually a bundle of nerves. So I'll just be pacing around and stretching and trying to warm up or trying to prepare myself. I'll try to jump around so that it's not the first time my body's done any extreme movement for the day. But for the most part, things are usually just quiet, calm, the calm before the storm, I guess.
Hey, you released your last EP, A Tear in the Fabric of Life, back in 2021, mate. So how much of that's going to be in the actual set list?
A good amount of it for sure. This will be our first time back in Australia with that music available, so we definitely want to incorporate as much of it as we can into our set list. You know, Knotfest, with so many bands playing at the same day, like we might not have the longest set in the world, but we're definitely going to play for every minute that they let us. So we'll have, you know, the usual fan favorites, and then we'll incorporate some of the newer EP to see how it goes over to that kind of crowd.
Actually, on that point too, bro, like when you do festival shows like this, like you say, your set list is cut a little bit to fit all the bands on. So as a band touring, say maybe an international country, like how do you get the balance in the set? Like, of course, you want to play the favorites for the fans, but you also want to promote your new music as well. So is it sort of more difficult to get a balanced set list on a smaller set?
I feel like our sets are always just curated around what kind of like crowd reaction we're expecting. So we like to keep things to the songs that are usually favored the most in a live setting. And then when it comes to squeezing in new stuff, we do the stuff that's like typically structured like the other songs that go well, you know, like we don't take a lot of like huge risks in a live show trying out a song that might be like a deep cut on the album or like a slower song. Like if we're going to incorporate a newer song, it's going to be like high energy. It's going to have like a standout part that you can kind of grasp onto whether or not you're familiar with that song or not.
So back to The Tear in the Fabric of Life, mate, too. Like that EP was interesting in the fact that it was sort of conceptually written centering on a road trip that went wrong, basically. But tell us the story behind that. It sounds like there's a bit to it.
Yes, that was just an idea that I had for a long time, and it kind of just like met up with the idea that we had to do this concept EP, and the idea from there just kind of like grew into what it became. But originally, like the bare bones idea was just like a couple driving home one night, and an accident happens. A man is at the wheel, his partner dies in the crash, and then he has to go through the guilt of feeling like he was responsible because he was driving, or just the grief of now living without his partner, and all the feelings that come with something like that. And it was definitely a learning experience, like expanding that story into a full 6-song EP and figuring out like what part each song played in the story. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think that it's still like one of our best things we've ever done.
And from a writing perspective, do you reckon it's easier to write just an album of all original songs or the concept one?
I would say I feel like I originally thought that it was going to be way harder. I thought that I honestly didn't know if I'd be able to pull it off because I had never written in that kind of context. But I think by the end of it, there were definitely parts of it that were easier than writing regular lyrics, because there was that like wiggle room of stretching the truth, because it was all still kind of make believe.
Yeah.
So if I had an idea that I just made up off the top of my head, like I could run with it because I didn't need it to be real life experience. I just got to kind of sprinkle real life experience and real life feelings and emotions that I've felt in the story to make it more believable.
That'd be pretty cool, actually, like being able to take that liberty with things, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So a conceptual album, something that you'll explore more in the future, do you think? Or is that just a one-off?
I'm not sure. We definitely, it was kind of like a little pivot to put all of our focus in something so artistically driven, and I definitely want to keep aspects of that attention to detail going forward in future projects, like the art that we focused on when it came to this record, and the way that we promoted it and the things that we did. I really want to keep that moving forward, knowing that people reacted so well to such an artistic release. But when it comes to like a full-blown concept idea, I don't see it being something that we do regularly. just because of I feel like the quarantine kind of allowed us to have all that time to really zoom in on something that normally would be kind of like set to the side.
Yeah, true. And we mentioned that came out back in 2021, bro. So have you started any work on the next album yet?
We've done some, yeah. Nothing that I can really talk about, but we do definitely try to take advantage of any time off that we have to get together and work on new stuff, or even if we're just hanging out and like talking about themes and directions that we want to go, you know.
Yeah, cool. So you've got Knotfest in Australia this March, right? So what's Knotfest got planned for the rest of 2023?
Actually, right before Australia, we're doing a festival in our hometown called LDB Fest, and that will be to celebrate 10 years of Knocked Loose. This is like our 10th birthday. And then throughout the year, we're kind of just playing some scattered festivals, kind of like touring a little bit slower this year to just focus on other things. And yeah, we're playing Coachella, we're playing Bonnaroo, a lot of really, really awesome opportunities we're very excited for.
Beautiful, Bryan. All right, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time, mate. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. You're out in Australia late March for Knotfest, so we'll catch you then.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me.
Have a nice day, brother.